Okay, so we've been building up to this point now of really getting to an equation, right? A general formula. Okay, so let's just review a little bit. Remember we talked about if we had a slope of 3 and a y-intercept of 0, comma 1, right? Remember, we just said, well, if x is 300, we can easily find y by, remember, what's our two steps for our shortcut? Multiply the slope and the x. So my 3 is my slope. My x is my 300. 3 times 300, 900, right? And then remember our last step, our second step, is to then take that 900 and add the y-intercept to that. Well, the y-intercept is 1, so I simply do 900 plus 1, and that's 901. All right, let's use this information to make our formula. All right, so real quick, remember, slope is m, y-intercept is b. All right, so again, let's go through it. This is for any number, right? X is any number. How do we find y? We're just going to take that shortcut that we just talked about that you guys already know and really just use a formula and show you where that formula comes from. All right, so here we go. Right, what was the shortcut? To multiply the slope and the x. Well, remember, slope is m, and we're going to multiply by x, and x is going to be x this time. It could be any number, so that's why we just have m times x. And how in algebra do we write m times x? mx. Remember, variables next to each other means they're multiplying, right? So when we say multiply the slope and x, that just means mx, m times x. All right, what's step 2? Is to then add to that the y-intercept. So I'm going to take mx and add the y-intercept, which is b. And that's what gives me the y. So the formula that we're going to use all the time, and you're going to hear it forever, is y equals mx plus b. And m is the slope times x, add the y-intercept, and that gives you your y. That's the formula. That's it. All right, let's take a look, right? So what is it? The slope-intercept form of a linear equation? It's y equals mx plus b, where m is what? The slope. And b is what? The y-intercept. And remember, x and y, right there, those are the coordinates from the table or the graph, right? That's where the x and y are. Those are the coordinates from the table or the graph. Y equals mx plus b, people. Y equals mx plus b. You're going to hear it a lot. So let's go a little bit deeper. What if I ask you to write an equation in slope-intercept form? Well, that's really simple, right? If I tell you the slope is 7, and I tell you the y-intercept is 0, comma 5, you just plug in the numbers, right? I'm going to put the 7 in for m, and I'm going to put the 5 in for b. And I'm going to keep the x and y. Y equals 7x plus 5, and that's it. That's the equation. That's it. Put the slope, make sure you know the slope is there, y-intercept is there in place of b. What if I go the other way now? What if I said, what is the slope and the y-intercept in the following equation? All right, here it is. Y equals 9x minus 12. But remember, the number multiplying x, that's always the slope, right? And then remember that minus 12, that makes the 12 negative. So I always like to think of minus 12 as plus negative 12, because remember, that 12 is a negative 12 there. So again, what number is multiplying x? 9. That's the slope. There it is, right there in the equation. And real quick, what's the y-intercept? Right there at 0, negative 12. Right? That's it. Just seeing the numbers in the equation, knowing where they go. Now remember, what if I have this? Well, remember, the 23 is still your y-intercept. The 2 is multiplying the x. So remember, the 2 has to be the slope. So I always rewrite it. Y equals 2x plus 23. The 2 is right there. That's the m. The slope is 2. And what's the y-intercept? It's the number all by itself, the 23, all by itself there. So how do you see the slope? It's always multiplying x, just like we talked about in our shortcut. All right, so let's do a couple of questions over this. Feel comfortable with just y equals mx plus b. All right, here we go.